What up, big dogs? I'm your host, Coach Craig, and this is Athletes Unleashed. On today's episode, I sit down with a Division II college soccer player. We discuss working through a difficult senior season in high school, making the decision to move to Hawaii to attend and play for Chaminade University, and finding her love for the sport again, with a little help from her sister. Please enjoy my conversation with Gigi Montiforte. Gigi, thank you so much for joining us today. Looking forward to talking with you. You are headed off to college very shortly, and you've decided, I think, unlike a lot of students from California, from Southern California, most of them stay in-state, some of them go to neighboring states. You were going a couple thousand miles in the opposite direction and headed to Hawaii.
Yes.
To play soccer at a school called Chaminade in Honolulu. They're Division II. It's very exciting. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to talk to you not only about the decision to go there and how you got connected to Chaminade, but also if you have any reservations or hesitations, because transitioning to college is a big move for a lot of students, pretty much everybody. It's a huge step in your life, and it's one thing to be, within driving distance of home, and it's another thing to be in another state and across an ocean. And so I'm wondering, where's your head at? You're leaving pretty soon. Like, how are you feeling about moving to Hawaii?
I'm very excited, but also there's a lot of things at home that I'm leaving behind for the sport that I love. So it's a big sacrifice for me. Mm-hmm. And especially seeing a lot of my friends, they aren't going to play soccer. So they're just going to have the college experience, and I'm going to have more of the sport experience, which is totally okay with me because I love soccer that much. But I'm just very nervous and terrified because everything's at home. I've lived with my parents forever. I've been around my friends, driving distance with my boyfriend, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's just leaving everything here to literally move across the ocean to go play soccer. So
we talk about sacrifices a lot, and a lot of times it's sacrificing time with friends and family, sacrificing going to events because you're playing soccer or playing sports instead. This is a big sacrifice because you're going to get to have a college experience, but some people go home on the weekends. It's not really an option for you. So why, there are the obvious reasons as to why Hawaii, but why did you decide to commit to Chaminade and not just to play soccer, but to go to school there as well?
I think what I was looking for in a school, somewhere this might sound dumb, but by the beach definitely, because I'm a beach girl. So
I went to UC Santa Barbara, I understand.
Yeah, I love being by the beach, and I guess the schools out here that I tried out for the soccer teams and stuff, they weren't fitting for me, and the coaching staff at Chaminade was very generous towards me and my family, and they made sure that this was the perfect choice for me, and not just saying, oh, I want you for my soccer team. They made sure that school will come first before athletics, and soccer comes second to all of that, and mental health, and making sure reaching out to people if I'm feeling homesick and all of that. And I feel that was something that wowed me, because I was nobody really does this, you know what I'm saying? Coaches, they will go out to do their most, but they won't go above and beyond. And this coaching staff really went above and beyond for me and my family when we came to visit.
Yeah.
So that was huge for me. And all the other schools, they were just we want you on our team. That was about it.
Yeah.
So I was okay, this is somewhere I want to be.
You felt they were bringing a little something extra to the table.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did you get connected with Chaminade in the first place?
I knew of someone that went there, and I didn't know exactly what school she went to. So I knew she came to one of our practices one time, and she was saying how she was going to Hawaii. And as a little girl, you always dream of going to Hawaii, let alone just going to Hawaii and then playing soccer. That's a huge dream. And I've always said it when I was little, I would love to go there. So I heard her say that she was going to Hawaii, and December of 2022, there was an alumni game, and she came out, and me and my mom decided to talk to her, and she was like, yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. So me and her had a phone call and all this stuff, and she told me the ins and outs of it, and what to expect, what is going to happen, what's not going to happen. Everyone has their own experience, obviously, but there are certain things that obviously are going to be the same.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and I know she doesn't have the greatest experience there. I think it really depends on who you are and how you acclimate to that environment, but it sounds like you're super excited to go.
I am.
I want to kind of jump back a little bit because I know, I coached on your high school soccer team, so you and I are relatively close. We've talked a lot about things going on during the season and there was a point where you reached out to me about recruiting after your senior season, which is very late in the recruiting cycle. And recruiting continuously comes up with the people that we talk to because I think there's just not a lot of information out there about it. If you're not being actively recruited by high-level schools, it really falls to the individual to do a lot of the legwork to get noticed and to contact coaches. And so I want to jump back all the way to the process of doing it, but how did you get connected? I mean, obviously you talked to this player who plays there, and I'm sure you reached out to the coach, but how did you get connected with Chaminade, and then what was the process of going there, seeing the school, showcasing your skills for them, and then getting an offer?
I completely did everything like by myself. So like I talked to you and you told me like these are the schools, like majors, like you have to make sure that you're contacting a school with your major because you're not just going to go to a school to play soccer and get what degree, you know what I'm saying? So I looked that up, they had the major I wanted, and so then I contacted the coach and I asked for help from a teammate about like the email and like how to set it up because I had no idea. So she helped me out, and then I kind of went along those lines. And I emailed the coach, and I was waiting for a response, and I was getting kind of like nervous because she was taking a while, and I was like, well, it's the end of recruiting season, like I have to give her some time. But at the same time, like other people were committing, and I was like, do I even have time?
Your time's running out.
Yeah, my time was running out. So then she finally gave me a response back, and it was huge. And she was like, well, like she was talking about my major and like went into school first, like didn't even like talk about the soccer part. So I was like, wow, like maybe like this is a good school to go to. And then she asked me for film. So then I sent her my film that I made, and we were talking back and forth. She made some phone calls to me, and then I think she contacted my coach to like ask about like how I was as a player. And then she reached out to me again and was like, well, we want you to come out like anytime before April 21st, like come practice with us like for a day. So then me and my mom were like instantly, we're like, spring break, we're going. Like there's just like no way I can't miss this opportunity.
Tough to convince you to go to Hawaii, but so you made a couple points there, which I think are really important. You have to do a lot of the contacting. You have to understand when you contact them, there's no expectation on a response at all, or a timeline on a response. You're just kind of waiting. And I think that is a really difficult part of the recruiting process, is just being patient. And then sometimes you just don't get the response, which is terrible. But you said something that they contacted your coach, and I think this is a big thing for a lot of prospective college athletes, is to understand that they're not just going to look at your tape, they're not just going to look at your transcript, they don't just want to meet you, they're going to talk to people in your life, especially coaches that you interact with, and your relationship with that coach, good or bad, if you are a quality player on the field and even more so, I think, a quality teammate, if you contribute to the team and to the program, and you are someone that coach believes can make an impact for the college, I think that makes you a much better prospect. I tell everyone when I talk to them about recruiting, if you are a quality student, and a quality soccer player, that's great, but you're going to match up against other people who have the same grades or the same skill level. What sets you apart as an individual that the coach is going to want you to be a part of their culture? And so you went there over spring break. You got to practice with them. What was that experience like, and when did you realize, like, this is something that I want to be a part of?
I was very nervous the morning of, like, I could not eat at all because I was like, okay, these are college girls. Like, they're obviously going to be, like, bigger than me because I haven't been in the weight room like they have. So I was like, okay, like, I have to, like, play bigger, better. Like, I just have to leave it out on the field. And the weather was also hard to acclimate to because it's, like, very humid there. And it was spring break, so it was hot. So we got there, and the girls were very nice. They immediately were, like, asking me questions. They were like, oh, like, where do you come from? What's your high school team? Like, stuff like that. And they were like, just saying, like, oh, if you have any questions, like, let us know. So I was like, okay, like, they're being honest with me. And so then I practiced with the team, and at first I wasn't doing so well because I was very nervous. Like, my nerves took over. But then I was like, okay, this is my chance to, like, prove myself. So I turned it around, and she did drills that were, like, specific to see my skills. So it was, like, defensive stuff because I play defense. And that's when I think I set myself. I was like, okay, like, I can play there because I took on girls that were bigger than me, taller than me, faster than me, and I stopped them. Like, I shut them down. So that's when. So in that moment where you're, like, questioning whether or not you should be there, like, where's your head at, and then how do you make that turn? I think making that turn was just like looking at my mom, seeing what she sacrificed for me, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna like let her down, let my family down, let alone like let my teammates down for like helping me get to this point, or my coaches and stuff like that. Like, I didn't want to let anybody down, so I was like, I have to flip this around like right now, or else I'm not gonna make this team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Are a lot of the players there from Hawaii, or is it a lot of transplants?
It's like mixed. They're mostly from Hawaii, but the ones that don't come from Hawaii, they're from California.
Really?
So it's very like you can get.
So it's an environment that you kind of
Yeah.
vibed with. So that's good. I'm very excited for you. I wish I was going to college in Hawaii. That sounds awesome. I want to jump back a little bit. You and I talk regularly throughout the year, throughout the season. I try to check in with a lot of players that I have relationships with, and especially ones that I've had kind of deeper conversations with. And we've talked a couple times about kind of mental health, emotional health, where you were at certain times. And I know there were a couple struggles over the last year where you're kind of questioning why you were doing all of this. And I want to kind of get in, like, I really want other people who are listening and kids who are interested in following a similar path to understand that it's not going to be easy all the time, and that you're going to question yourself sometimes. And I think hearing the experience of players like yourself and the kind of ups and downs of the entire process, I think is a very helpful thing. And I know over the last year, it's been a bit of a ride, and there were, highs and lows and struggles, and now you're in a much better place. But take me back to where kind of that ride started this year.
Well, I came off a very like high level good club season for myself. Like, I proved myself playing center back when I was put into that position when I originally played outside back. So I came off of that, and I was kind of expecting like high school to like keep going up, and so I started playing with like the starters and stuff, which I was expecting. And then I injured my knee at a game, and coming back from that was like very tough, because I remember that weekend was the Legends ID camp. So like trying to get recruited then, and I was like, okay, like I have no chance. So I started to give up on myself. And then when I came back from that injury, I wasn't like given a second chance to go back on the field, because there were other girls who stepped up into my position. So I would like try to come to practice and like prove myself and like continue to work hard and stay in that good mindset. But I think at a certain point, I was just like kept like pushing myself into the ground, where I was like, how do I even get out of this? Like, is it even worth it? Why am I at practice? Like, why am I showing up to games? Like, what's the point? And that's when like I turned to you to talk to you, because I know like me and you talk and you'll give me the honest truth. Like, you're not just going to tell me something just to say it. So I talked to you, and you told me like, you can't always stay in like this mindset, because if you're just in the mindset, you're going to be like that for the rest of your life. Like, if you don't get out of it, you're never going to snap out of it. So I was like, I have to like snap out of it. And I feel like a week or like 2 weeks later, I feel like I looked at myself and I was like, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I going to give up soccer because other people aren't giving me a second chance, or I'm not able to like be on that field playing? But I know that I have the ability to. Right. It's just I'm not getting that chance. So I was like, I'm just going to show up. Whatever happens, happens. And if I can't play, I can't play. Right. But if I do play, I'm going to do my best. So it was like changing that mindset really was what helped me. And I feel like every athlete, like it's hard for them, because they're like, oh, like I see these people starting. I see these people getting minutes. It's like, why am I not getting minutes? But I feel like nobody like is alone in that thought process, because it happens to like everybody. Like, you're not going to have a stable relationship with soccer. Like, everyone I've talked to, like, they've never had like this continuing up or like this stable, like nothing. It's going to be highs, lows, low lows, high highs, like in between. So
yeah, it's something that I talk to a lot of different athletes about, whether it be you're coming back from injury, or and in your case, you hurt yourself. It costs you a chance to get recruited at the ID camp. You're trying to get back, you're trying to get match fit, you're trying to contribute to what turned out to be probably the best team in the school's history, which you're a very important part of. But it's difficult when you're trying to earn your spot back, and the people who have filled in for you, and as they should, they're your teammates, they're picking up the slack when somebody goes down, are performing at an extremely high level. So it's frustrating. I feel like it's got to be a difficult position, because you're excited for your teammates. You're not one of those people who's, rooting against someone else in your position, but it's also hard because you're like, I can contribute, but I'm not upset with them for doing really well. They're helping our team. So I don't know how you're feeling in those moments where you're effectively on the bench watching someone play your position, but they're doing a good job. So I'm interested in, like, how do you deal with the conflicted feelings of, like, wanting to support your teammate and wanting the team to do well, but also being disappointed that you're not getting to contribute?
I feel like being a good teammate was always something that I've been, like, good at. Like, I know that if someone's succeeding better than me, I'm happy for them. Like, I'm happy for the team. I'm happy for everyone's successes. I feel like that's when my mindset started going a little, like, deeper and deeper, because I was like, okay, like, the team's doing good, but I'm not doing good.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? And I knew that, like, if I was going to be a bad teammate, it wouldn't have helped me any better. But if I would have been a good teammate, it would have not only, like, helped my team, but also helped me a little more because I was starting to be more positive. So I knew I had to show up to every game and every practice and, like, be there for my teammates. Like, even when they were going through a rough time, I was there to talk to them and share my experiences and help them out, and also try to help myself out by, like, okay, we can help each other out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you're still a senior leader on the team. Like, you have an opportunity to influence other players. And I think this is something that a lot of players who get injured deal with. It's like, what role do I even have anymore? And the reality is, even when your role changes, you can still contribute in ways. And that comes back to your coach's opinion of you. You could have shut it down. You could have been really negative. You could have stopped showing up. And then when the college calls the coach to say, tell me about Gigi, the coach says, well, when the going gets tough, she disappears. Instead, he's able to stand on his principles and be like, look, despite all the adversity, she was here, she was working hard. And that, to me, is what I think speaks to a lot of coaches. If they know, I mean, the transition to college is going to be difficult, even when you're at the beach. Like, it's hard. You're on your own for the first time. You have to manage your studies. You have to manage your time. And then that's for the average student. Not only now you have to manage your physical fitness, your mental and emotional health when it comes to soccer and school, the sport-school balance. And I think knowing as a coach that you've got somebody that you can trust to be a really good member of your team and to contribute to your culture, I think is very important. So that's a hats off to you for not letting a tough mindset really bring you down. So, I mean, I think it's a situation that a lot of athletes deal with. I mean, did you noticed it with other players on the team too, that last year?
Yeah.
And do you think you were able to help them, you think?
I think I was, and they were able to help me because I felt like I wasn't alone. And then we kind of just helped each other. And I tried my best to get them out of that mindset once I was out of it, because I was like, hey, like, look, it gets better.
Yeah.
Like, you're not always going to be feeling like this. Like, once you start relying on others and, like, telling them stuff and, like, letting them into your head a little bit, or coaches into your head, like people you trust, obviously, like, it starts to get better, because you're not, of course, like, your mind's going to be like, oh, well, you suck or stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? When you're in a bad mindset. So letting those people in and seeing a little bit of what you're going through, it really helped, I feel like.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were there for them and that they were there for you. I think it really speaks to the cohesiveness of that team specifically. I think it was an incredible team and you guys achieved incredible things. But then, so I'm interested then how you come off the high of the season. So team won the league, they won CIF, they won the state championship. And then the season ends and it's kind of an excitement. You end on a high note and then you transition into, I don't know what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So
how does the mindset is getting better, and then soccer ends, and then what? Where are you at then?
I don't know. I feel like I was in, like, a dead period. I was like, okay, I see people committing. I see people committing to play sports. I see people committing to just go to college. So I was like, okay, this is, like, obviously a big decision. And it was my decision completely. Like, my parents really didn't have a say in it. Like, they didn't even know I was even questioning of playing soccer. Like, everyone kind of thought I was just, like, done. You know what I'm saying? Like, my coach didn't even know. Like, nobody really knew. But then I was like, I'm not going to let something that happened for 3 to 4 months affect my entire, like, career. Like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was one injury, one season that I wasn't able to do my best in. so I was like, I want to prove myself and prove to others that I can do this. So I was like, well, I better like start getting on it now.
Yeah.
Like I had to start then and there.
So you were considering not playing. And when did that, kind of at the same time as the injury, or?
Yeah, it was around that time.
Where you're just like, I don't know if I can do this
I was
anymore.
like, I don't know. Because it's a lot, especially like injuries or like how coaches treat you or like people telling you what you can and can't do as like a player. And it's a lot to like, when you're at such a low state, to continue to bring your mental state back up again. Like it's a lot to bring yourself back up and continue to play and do your best and stuff like that. And when you keep getting pushed back down, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's like, I
see that with a lot of players who, it's interesting. You have players who are really, really high level, like very skilled and very positive as well. And something will happen, whether it be an injury or someone will end up playing over them, or that's the other thing is we don't really even talk about is everything that goes on in your personal life as well. Like beyond just being an athlete, you also have to manage your studies. So you're dealing with like AP tests and graduation and all the emotions that are tied up with finishing school, and also relationships and friendships. And as much as everybody wants to think like sometimes high school can be an idyllic experience, it tends to be kind of volatile. Like friends fall out, relationships fall apart, you start new things and your attention gets diverted if you meet somebody new, or things draw your focus and attention all the time. And so when you're considering not playing anymore, you never said it to me. You never told me like I'm considering not trying to go to the next level. But we talked, I'm at the school every day, like I see you all the time. We were talking pretty frequently, and I could tell that there was a little bit of a confidence issue. Like I could see someone who is normally very confident and very sure of themselves questioning their value and what they could contribute, but also just like kind of everything. We talked about personal stuff. There was just a lot of like, I don't know if confusion is the right word, but like there was a little crisis of confidence. Like I don't think you exactly knew what you could provide or what your worth was. And do you feel like there was a point where that kind of turned around, or how did you feel during that time? I know it kind of coincided with everything else, but I think there are a lot of players that, whether it be personal, academic, athletic, there are things where they question themselves, and it's sometimes difficult to get out of that cycle. So I don't know if you can give people a glimpse into your mindset, and then maybe how friends, family, coaches, how you're able to turn it around.
I feel like ever since like high school began, there have been instances like personal relationships, friendships, academics, and athletics where it's like my confidence has been, I don't know what the word for it is, like dropped, I guess, where it's just dropped. And for athletics, it's kind of like my injury, obviously, seeing people that are like better than me and saying, okay, like, can I even get to that level? Like, it's a lot. And then with academics, it's like, okay, there are people smarter than me. Like, why are they doing better than me in this subject? Like, for me, it was math. Like, I was not good at math. So I had to keep up with having a tutor and, like, making sure I passed that class. Because if I didn't pass, I would not be able to graduate. And then for relationships, like, friends falling out, boyfriends breaking up, like, that was where confidence has dropped. And I feel like my senior year, it was definitely academics and athletics tied together. And it was just, like, a very low point for me. And I feel like all those years, it was kind of, like, combining together. Like, okay, like, all this stuff. And then once your head is, like, in, like, jambled and, like, a mess, I started thinking about everything. Like, every instance, every time where someone has put me down, where my confidence has lowered, stuff like that. And it's just, like, I didn't know. Like, I was very confused. I was like, is it even worth it to leave home? Like, is it even worth it to go across the ocean? Is it even worth it to go play soccer and, like, miss out on things or let, like, coaches treat me this way? Like, I was very, like, skeptical, nervous, no idea what to do. And I feel like finding the love for the sport again was huge for me, because if I didn't, I probably wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
So.
Where'd you find it?
I feel like for me, it was having fun with it first. So high school wasn't very fun, obviously, for me. I mean, it was fun being around my teammates, but the soccer part was not. And after I got it better, me and my sister began to do indoor. And we started with some of our friends, and that's where I started to like make it fun for myself. And I feel like that's important, the balance between, okay, this is competitive, this is intense, and then also being like, okay, like this is fun. Like I'm gonna go out and have fun today. Like I'm not gonna always be down on myself or have to do my very best. Like I can just pass the ball and have fun. So I feel like having fun was what brought it back. And I was like, okay, like I like being competitive too. So I want to go and play competitive soccer.
It's good. I think along the journey of trying to achieve and move forward and get to the next level, people sometimes do lose the fun. Like we forget sometimes that we play this sport because we love it.
Yeah.
And you sometimes got to go out and play a pickup game or play an indoor game just to remember, like, it's not that deep. Like, you can go out and kick it around with your friends, and you do that because you enjoy it. And, back to what you were saying about struggling with your confidence, I feel like a lot of people who, especially non-athletes, don't really recognize how much personal struggles, academic struggles, family struggles, whatever it might be, whatever you're going through, because everybody's going through something, how much that can affect your performance on the field. And then vice versa. If your performance on the field is suffering, how much does that then affect you in the classroom and in your relationship? If you're not having fun, and if you're not playing well, if your standard of play has dropped and your confidence is down the toilet, how do you not carry that over to your relationship, to your friendships, like to your academic performance? And I think for me, that's one thing I try to look out for with athletes. How are your grades? How are your grades then affecting, how's your performance in school affecting your performance on the field? Yeah. And then how's your performance on the field affecting your performance in school? And school being your social life, your academic life. And the other thing is your family. I mean, you've got a great family around you, which I think is an asset that not everybody has, and something that probably helped you through a lot. But I think it's a unique struggle for athletes that a lot of people don't understand unless you're in it, how difficult it is sometimes to separate your performance on the field from everything else in your life, one way or the other. You feel like your performance is good and you're riding high and everything's great. And then you could come off the field from a great game and have something horrible happen or a problem in a friendship or relationship, and all of a sudden it changes the way you feel, or, you fall out with a friend before a game, and sometimes that motivates some people and other people it devastates. And I'm interested, like, for me, I know that's a hard thing for kids to deal with. Do you ever see that kind of carry over?
Definitely.
Yeah.
That was like a big learning lesson for me this past year, and I'm glad that I experienced it, because if I didn't, I feel like in college, being so far away from home, like it would be risky for me, because I was at such a low point, and I feel like definitely not having the best performances on the field or getting the chance to play carried over into my personal life a lot. Like my relationship, it started to go downhill because I was just like very negative. My friendships, like it was very hard. Academics, it was hard to keep up, like to focus on tests. All I was thinking about was like, how can I earn my spot back? Like that's always on my mind.
Consumes your thoughts.
It does a lot. And I feel like a lot of people don't see that and don't look out for that. And I'm glad that like you're one of those people that do, because it can like eat somebody away. And it's tough.
I think it's interesting too when you think about your friendships. It's tough sometimes when you come off, if you're having a tough time on the soccer field, you come off and your friends are your people from the team who are not having a tough time, where you want to talk to them about like, I'm not loving this right now. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's great. I think that it's an interesting like athlete specific situation where it's like, I'm not enjoying this, but all of my friends are, and how do I reconcile that? Was that a situation?
That was very difficult. Like that was what got me, because most of my very close friends were the people that started on the field. And so I would say I was lucky enough to have a friend who was going through the same thing as me. And like we sat on the bench together and like we could see where each other were coming from. So like we were both not having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when those people came off, we still supported them. We were still happy for them.
Of course.
But it's just like that feeling where it's like, okay, like I have to be happy for them. I have to put a smile on my face. But like at the same time, like I'm not happy like with myself and what's going on in my life.
Right.
It was very difficult because it's two different things. And I feel like I didn't want to bring my negative energy to them because they were doing so well on the field and so well in their own lives. So I definitely had to find people who were outside of soccer or like people who were still in soccer but understood what I was going through. And I feel like one of my close friends was one of those people for me, and we could just relate. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in your situation, it tends to eat away at them to the point where they start chipping away at the team as a whole and chipping away at the camaraderie. And I think that is one great thing about a team is regardless of how it's going for the individual, you have the people around you to support you. But it is true that some people just don't understand what you're going through, or they can't understand it because they've either never dealt with it or they've never been in the position where you were to lose your spot. You know, maybe they didn't get to play originally, and so they have their own opinions for a different reason. But I know it was a bit of I know this year was a struggle for you, but I want people to see that despite everything kind of going against you and a feeling like, is it even really worth it to do this anymore? Like, I love the sport, but it doesn't feel like it loves me right now.
Yeah.
And I'm giving my all to this thing for what feels like nothing. I think there are so many athletes who go through that feeling and don't know what to do with it. And unfortunately, a lot of them quit because they don't want to deal with it anymore. And for some people, that's the right decision. But I'm glad you were able to find your love of it again. I really think that's an important fact. It's just got to go out and play with your friends. Remember why you love to do what you do, because it takes a lot to play at that high level.
It does.
So I'm glad you found that. I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
I know your sister's a big person in your life, and she was a soccer player too, and something you guys can connect on together.
Yeah.
How's she feel about you going to Hawaii?
She's excited but sad because like we've always been like, everyone tells us that we're twins. Like we do everything together. We show up places together. Like her friends are my friends are her friends. Like that's just how it is. Even though she's 3 years older than me, like we still relate to a lot of things because we've been through similar things, and she's always been somebody I can turn to. Because obviously, like, my parents never played competitive sports, so they're not going to know what I'm feeling. But my sister went through something similar during college soccer, and she decided to go the opposite way, and she decided to play soccer that was more fun for her instead of playing something competitive. So I feel like I look up to her a lot, and she supports my decision, and she just wants me to be happy and to make sure that I love the sport to the point where I'm going to move across.
I mean, I assume you talked to her about the entire situation as somebody who went the opposite direction, who made the decision to no longer play. Did she have any regrets about it that she kind of communicated to you that might help you make a decision, or was it just the ability to confide in her?
She did have regrets about quitting because she loved it so much, and I feel like everyone feels that way. Like they just have this passionate love for soccer, but at some point, like, for her, she said, like, it was a better decision for her to walk away. Like, that's what she needed to do. And sometimes people are strong for that. It's not giving up. It's just, like, I'm going to choose to walk away from my mental health and decide to live my life the way I want to live it. And I'm glad that she did what she wanted to do.
Good. Yeah, I talk to a lot of athletes who are kind of on that precipice of, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I try to just validate the feelings that they're having and let them know that it's not a failure to walk away. Like, I say it all the time, everybody's career ends sometime. And if you can end it on your own terms, I think that's a great thing. A lot of people's careers get ended for them by coaches or teammates or injury that just make them feel like they don't have any worth or that they're not able to do it anymore. And I'm glad she was able to walk away on her terms. And that, you learn something from those situations. And for me, I look at it as a really positive thing because she was able to impart the information to you and help you make a decision that was right for you. And so now you're on your own journey. But I think that's great that you have somebody that you can speak with and confide in. Like, obviously, I'm always here for you. Friends and teammates and coaches are going to be there for you. But to have somebody who's as close to you as your sister is, who's been in a similar situation. I'm sure you're going to run into things in college where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing right now, or I don't know if this was the right decision or whatever. And having somebody who can support you, I think, is really special.
Yeah, I agree. She's always been a big part of my life, and I feel like even as we get older, we just continue to grow together, and she was a huge part in me deciding to go to Hawaii because she supported me and my family supported me, and I feel like if I didn't have that support, I wouldn't be where I am.
I'm sure she's already got a trip or two planned to
Oh
come
yeah,
visit.
definitely.
Yeah, that's a little positive in that in that whole situation for her. So, all right, well, I appreciate you being so open about everything. I know it's not always easy to talk about your low points, but I think it's really important for other athletes to hear that you can struggle and you can have ups and downs, and your career is going to have ups and downs, and it's going to affect you in the classroom. It's going to affect you in your personal life. But if you persevere, there's still opportunities out there for you to live your dreams and achieve what you want to do. And you're getting to do that. You get to go play college soccer in one of the most beautiful states in the world. It's going to be a pretty exciting thing. So I like to wrap up every episode with asking my guest for someone else who's out there listening, somebody who's on your path or dealing with something similar, which I think a lot of people are, if you have a piece of advice for them, something that will help them along their journey.
I would say don't let people tell you what you can and can't do. Like, you know your abilities, you know that you're good, and if you let other people say things about you, it's just gonna make your confidence go down. I feel like you have to stay in that mindset where you're like, okay, like I'm good, I'm gonna do this, and it's for you and you only, and like, yeah. That's
great. What about if somebody's at that low confidence point where you were? Do you have a piece of advice for them when they're in that moment? How did you push through that? Like, what do you think? What's something that they can do to maybe help them along that journey? Because I mean, you were there. You know how difficult it was to kind of dig yourself out of that. So is there something that you did or that might help them along the way?
For me, it was two things. It was definitely relying on people that I trusted, and also finding your why. Like, why are you doing this, and why are you going to continue to persevere through it? Because if your why is strong enough, you're going to be able to rely on that why, and you're just going to keep going through it, and you're going to keep bringing yourself back up to the point where you're like, I accomplished something for myself.
That's something I talk about with a lot of kids early on in our relationships is, what is your why? Yeah. You have to have a reason. If you're going to put in the amount of effort that you're going to put in to do this, there has to be a reason behind it. There has to be something that's pushing you. So maybe we'll wrap it up. What is your why?
My why is like my family, and seeing how much sacrifice that they put for me throughout this sport, and like they've supported me and all this stuff, and I just want to owe it to them. Like, I'm here, I'm doing it, like this is my dream, and I'm going to do it for not only them but also myself, and like the little girl who is like, she wants to play college soccer, and I'm just gonna do it.
That's great, dude. I'm so proud of you. Great job, Gigi. Thank you so much for joining us today. You were awesome.
Of course.
All right. Good job, dude. You did great. Huge thank you once again to our guest Gigi Montiforte, our producer Malin Blade, and all the big dogs listening. Tune into our next episode for more Athletes Unleashed. Later, homies.